Trash like you doesn't belong in first class. Bradley Hutchinson spits the words at the elegant black woman approaching gate C-24. Without warning, he grabs her boarding pass and rips it in half, then throws the pieces at her feet like garbage. "Pick it up," he commands, pointing at the scattered papers. "And get to the back where you belong." Amara Washington stands frozen as 200 passengers stare, her designer blazer, her confidence, her dignity, all stripped away in 10 seconds by this sneering white gate agent who thinks his little badge makes him king. Bradley crosses his arms, savoring his power. "Maybe next time you'll know your place." The woman's hands tremble slightly. But behind her calm exterior lies a secret that will destroy this man's entire world. Because in exactly 3 minutes, Bradley Hutchinson will discover he just humiliated the wrong person. Denver International Airport pulses with pre-holiday energy. Gate C-24 sits at the heart of Concourse C, where the smell of Starbucks coffee mingles with the metallic scent of jet engines. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Mountain West Airlines Flight 447 gleams under the morning sun, its engines humming with anticipation. 212 passengers have already boarded the Boeing 737, their carry-ons stowed, seatbelts fastened. Business executives check their phones one last time. Families with young children settle in for the 3-hour journey to Washington, D.C. The cabin crew performs final safety checks while Captain James Murphy reviews flight plans in the cockpit. This should have been a routine Tuesday morning departure. Instead, it becomes the stage for a confrontation that will reshape an entire industry. Detective Sergeant Amara Washington had started her day at 4:30 a.m. in her downtown Denver apartment. 15 years of federal law enforcement had taught her to pack efficiently. Her black leather briefcase contains case files, federal court documents, and a badge that carries more authority than most people realize. She's not just any police officer. She's a member of the Department of Justice Civil Rights Task Force, specifically assigned to investigate discrimination in transportation. For the past 8 months, Amara has been building a federal case against systematic racism in airports across the Mountain West region. Denver International sits at the center of her investigation. Multiple complaints have crossed her desk about this specific terminal, this specific gate, and this specific employee who thinks his uniform grants him unlimited power over passengers who don't look like him. Today's trip to Washington, D.C. should be her victory lap. The Attorney General plans to present her with the Distinguished Federal Service Award for her work exposing transportation discrimination. Her presentation at the National Law Enforcement Conference will detail how individual acts of bias create patterns of systematic oppression. She never expected to become evidence in her own case. Bradley Hutchinson has worked at Gate C-24 for 12 years. His employee file, locked in Mountain West Airlines Human Resources Office, tells a troubling story. 17 formal complaints for discriminatory behavior, 23 informal reports from colleagues about inappropriate comments, 0 disciplinary actions beyond a few strongly worded emails that he deletes without reading. Management protects Bradley because he processes passengers quickly and rarely calls in sick. They've convinced themselves that a few complaints are just the cost of running an efficient operation. They don't realize that their willful blindness has created a federal liability that will soon cost them everything. Bradley sees his gate as his kingdom. Every passenger who approaches his desk must earn his approval. White business travelers get warm smiles and upgrades. Families with young children receive patient assistance. But passengers who trigger his prejudices face a different Bradley entirely. One who uses airline policies like weapons and treats basic human dignity as a privilege he can revoke. This morning, Bradley arrived at work 30 minutes early, coffee in hand, ready to exercise his power. He's already denied boarding to 2 Latino passengers, claiming their documents looked suspicious. He's forced an elderly black man to pay extra baggage fees that don't exist. And now, as he watches Amara approach with her first-class boarding pass, he feels that familiar surge of authority. He has no idea that Amara Washington carries federal jurisdiction over his actions. He doesn't know that his behavior has been under surveillance for months. He can't imagine that the quiet, professional woman walking toward his desk possesses the legal authority to shut down his gate, ground his aircraft, and end his career with a single phone call. The terminal around them buzzes with typical airport energy. TSA agents guide passengers through security checkpoints. Retail workers stock overpriced snacks and souvenirs. Gate agents at neighboring desks process their own passengers with professional courtesy and basic human respect. But at Gate C-24, something different is about to unfold. The overhead speakers crackle with routine announcements about boarding procedures and baggage claims. Holiday music drifts from nearby restaurants where travelers grab quick meals before flights. The air conditioning system hums steadily, maintaining comfortable temperatures despite the Colorado winter outside. None of the surrounding passengers understand they're about to witness a masterclass in consequences. They don't know that the next 10 minutes will be recorded on dozens of phones, uploaded to social media, and analyzed in federal courtrooms for years to come. Flight 447 sits ready for departure, its passengers reading magazines, adjusting headphones, and checking watches. The cabin crew announces that boarding is complete and the aircraft door will close shortly. Captain Murphy radios air traffic control for pushback clearance. But first, Bradley Hutchinson has one more passenger to humiliate. One more opportunity to prove his power over people he considers beneath him. He just chose the wrong target for the last time. Amara approaches the gate desk with quiet confidence, her federal credentials tucked discreetly in her blazer pocket alongside her boarding pass. The scent of leather from her briefcase mingles with the airport's recycled air as she prepares for what should be a simple boarding process. Bradley's eyes narrow as he watches her approach. To him, she represents everything he despises, a black woman in expensive clothes, carrying herself with dignity he believes she doesn't deserve. His fingers drum against the desk as predatory satisfaction spreads across his face. "Well, well," Bradley announces loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. "Look what we have here. Another welfare queen trying to fly first class on someone else's dime." The words hit the gate area like a slap. Conversations stop mid-sentence. A mother pulls her young daughter closer. Business travelers look up from their phones with expressions ranging from shock to uncomfortable recognition. Amara's training kicks in immediately. Document everything, note witnesses, stay calm. But 15 years of federal law enforcement couldn't fully prepare her for the public humiliation now unfolding. "Excuse me?" she says evenly, extending her boarding pass. "I'd like to board flight 447, please." Bradley snatches the boarding pass with theatrical aggression, holding it up to the light like a detective examining evidence. "First class, huh? Let me guess. Someone else paid for this. Your employer?" The pause drips with insinuation. "I purchased this ticket myself," Amara responds, her voice steady despite the growing audience. "May I board now? The gate agent just announced final boarding." "Not so fast, princess." Bradley tears the boarding pass in half with deliberate slowness, savoring each rip. "This looks fake to me. Probably printed at home." He drops the pieces at her feet like confetti. "Pick those up and get out of my gate area." Carlos Rivera, a 29-year-old Latino gate agent working nearby, feels his stomach twist. He's watched Bradley pull this routine dozens of times, but never this publicly, never this bold. His hand hovers over his radio, torn between intervention and job security. "Sir, I need to speak with your supervisor," Amara says, maintaining professional composure while internally cataloging federal crimes. "You've just destroyed my valid boarding pass without cause." "I don't need a cause, sweetheart." Bradley leans forward, using his height to intimidate. "I've got 12 years protecting passengers from people like you. Security!" His voice booms across the gate area. "Security to Gate C-24!" The crowd grows larger as boarding passengers crane their necks to watch the confrontation. Patricia Stone, a 60-year-old black woman and former federal employee, immediately recognizes the discrimination pattern. Her phone appears in her hands, camera app already recording. "This is unacceptable," Patricia announces to nearby passengers. "Everyone needs to record this. This is discrimination." Bradley whips around to face Patricia, his authority challenged. "Ma'am, you need to mind your own business or I'll have you removed too. No recording in secure areas." The lie rolls off his tongue easily. He's used fictional policies to silence witnesses before. "There's no law against recording in public spaces," Amara interjects, her legal knowledge showing. "These passengers have every right to document your behavior." "Don't tell me about laws, lady." Bradley's voice rises to near shouting. The only law here is airline policy, and I am airline policy at this gate. He points an accusatory finger inches from Amara's face. You want to know what I think? I think you stole that ticket. I think you're running some kind of scam. On board flight 447, Captain Murphy notices the delay. What's the holdup down there? He radios to ground control. The cabin crew begins fielding questions from impatient passengers who can see the commotion through the jet bridge windows. Bradley continues his assault, emboldened by his perceived authority. You people always think you can just walk into first class like you own the place. Well, this isn't the welfare office. This is my gate, and trash like you doesn't fly on my aircraft. The racial slur hangs in the air like toxic fog. Several passengers gasp audibly. A white businessman in an expensive suit shakes his head in disgust. 2 college students begin live streaming on Instagram. Sir, you're creating a hostile environment based on race, Amara states clearly, her legal training evident. I'm formally requesting the gate supervisor and asking for written documentation of your refusal to honor my valid ticket. Written documentation? Bradley laughs, a harsh sound that echoes off the terminal walls. Here's your documentation. He grabs her federal ID from where she'd placed it on the counter and waves it mockingly. This fake government ID proves you're running a scam, probably stolen from some real police officer. The irony would be laughable if it weren't so dangerous. Bradley holds Amara's federal credentials while accusing her of impersonating law enforcement. He doesn't recognize the Department of Justice seal. He can't read the federal jurisdiction warnings printed in small text. He sees only what his prejudice allows him to see. That's a federal crime you're suggesting, Amara warns, her patience wearing thin. Impersonating law enforcement carries serious penalties. Then I guess you're going to prison, Bradley sneers. Security's on their way to arrest you for fraud and trespassing. Maybe they'll find whatever drugs you're probably carrying too. Janet Morrison, the airport security supervisor, finally arrives at gate C-24. She's a 52-year-old white woman who's seen her share of gate disputes, but the crowd size suggests something unusual. Her radio crackles with reports of passenger disturbance and possible fraudulent documents. What's the situation here? Janet asks Bradley, automatically deferring to his authority as the gate agent. Attempted fraud, Bradley announces triumphantly. This woman tried to board with fake documents and a stolen federal ID. I've detained her pending arrest. Janet glances at Amara, taking in her professional attire and calm demeanor. Something doesn't add up, but Bradley's 12 years of service carry weight with airport management. Ma'am, I need to see all your identification, Janet requests. I've already shown my credentials to Mr. Hutchinson, Amara responds, gesturing toward Bradley. He destroyed my boarding pass and is currently holding my federal law enforcement identification. Federal law enforcement? Janet's eyebrows raise slightly. She's lying. Bradley interrupts quickly. It's obviously fake. Look at her. Does she look like a federal agent to you? The coded language isn't lost on anyone present. The implication hangs heavy. Federal agents don't look like Amara Washington. They look like people Bradley considers legitimate. They look like him. Meanwhile, Flight 447's departure time passes. The aircraft sits at the gate, engines running, burning expensive jet fuel while 200-plus passengers grow increasingly agitated. Captain Murphy radios Operations Center for an update. The ripple effects of Bradley's discrimination begin spreading through the airline system. I'm asking one final time for your supervisor, Amara states with growing firmness. This situation has escalated beyond customer service into potential federal crimes. Federal crimes? Bradley laughs again, louder this time. The only crime here is you trying to steal someone else's life. You don't belong in first class. You don't belong on this aircraft. And you definitely don't belong impersonating real law enforcement officers. He turns to address the growing crowd of passengers, playing to his audience. Folks, this is why your flights get delayed. People like this think they can scam their way onto aircraft with fake documents and stolen identities. But I protect honest travelers from fraud. Several passengers murmur agreement, buying into Bradley's narrative. Others look uncomfortable but remain silent. The recording continues as social media posts begin appearing with hashtags like #airport discrimination and #gategate. Amara realizes she's reached a critical decision point. She can continue trying to resolve this through normal channels, or she can invoke the federal authority that Bradley refuses to recognize. Her next choice will determine whether this remains a customer service dispute or becomes a federal civil rights case. But first, Bradley Hutchinson has one more degrading performance to deliver, and 200-plus passengers are about to learn that discriminating against the wrong person can ground an entire aircraft. Bradley's confidence reaches dangerous heights as he surveys his audience. The growing crowd of passengers feeds his sense of power, validating his authority in ways that airline policy manuals never could. He decides to escalate his performance, unaware that each action drives him deeper into federal criminal territory. "You know what? I think we need a thorough search," Bradley announces, moving around his desk like a predator circling prey. Anyone trying to board with fake federal credentials might be carrying more than just fraudulent documents. The suggestion sends chills through the watching passengers. Patricia Stone's recording captures every word as Bradley reaches for Amara's leather briefcase without permission or legal justification. "Sir, you have no authority to search my personal belongings," Amara states firmly, her legal training evident. "That briefcase contains privileged federal documents protected under multiple statutes." "Privileged documents?" Bradley's voice drips with mockery as he unzips the briefcase. "Let's see what kind of federal secrets welfare queens carry these days." The contents spill across his desk in a cascade of official papers: federal court filings, Department of Justice letterhead, case files marked confidential civil rights investigation. Bradley's eyes scan the documents, but his prejudice blinds him to their significance. "Look at this," he announces to the crowd, holding up an official document. "She's got fake FBI reports and phony court papers. This is a whole identity theft operation." He waves a genuine federal subpoena like it's evidence of fraud. Probably planning to scam someone in Washington. Carlos Rivera can't stay silent anymore. "Bradley, man, those documents look real. Maybe we should—" "Shut up, Carlos," Bradley snaps. "This is why you're still junior staff. You can't recognize obvious fakes when you see them." He turns back to Amara with renewed aggression. "What else are you hiding? Drugs, weapons, stolen credit cards?" Amara's composure begins showing cracks as Bradley rifles through confidential federal documents like they're newspaper clippings. Each page represents months of investigation, witness testimonies, evidence of systematic discrimination. Watching him contaminate federal evidence triggers her protective instincts. "Those documents are property of the United States government," she warns, her voice carrying new authority. "Tampering with federal evidence is a felony." "Federal evidence?" Bradley laughs so hard he snorts. "Lady, the only evidence here is that you're running a con game. Janet, arrest her for fraud and trespassing." Janet Morrison shifts uncomfortably. Something about this situation feels wrong, but Bradley's certainty and the pressure from delayed passengers cloud her judgment. "Ma'am, I need you to step away from the gate area while we sort this out. I'm not going anywhere until someone with actual authority addresses this discrimination," Amara responds, planting her feet. "I demand to speak with airport management and federal security immediately." Her refusal to submit enrages Bradley further. In his worldview, people like Amara should cower when confronted by his authority. Her continued resistance threatens his entire identity as gatekeeper and protector. "Discrimination!" he roars, loud enough to echo through the terminal. "I'll show you discrimination. Security, I want this woman arrested for disturbing the peace, fraud, impersonating a federal officer, and terrorist threats." The escalation shocks even his supporters. Terrorist threats is a phrase that carries serious weight in airports, and several passengers begin backing away nervously. "I never made any threats," Amara states calmly, though her hands clench into fists. "These passengers can verify that. You're manufacturing charges to cover your discrimination." "Manufacturing charges?" Bradley's face reddens with rage. "You threatened federal action against this airport. That sounds like terrorism to me." He turns to the crowd again, playing his trump card. "Folks, this is what domestic terrorists look like. They dress nice, carry fake credentials, and threaten innocent Americans doing their jobs." The accusation crosses a line that makes several passengers visibly uncomfortable. A white businessman in his 50s steps forward. "Excuse me, but that woman hasn't threatened anyone. She's been completely professional while you've been—" "Sir, please step back," Bradley commands. Don't let her accomplices distract you from the real threat. He points at Amara like she's carrying a bomb. I've seen this before. They travel in groups, create distractions, then strike when security is confused. On Flight 447, passenger patience reaches breaking point. The cabin temperature rises as air conditioning struggles with the delayed departure. Children cry while parents demand answers from flight attendants who have no information to provide. Captain Murphy radios Operations Center with growing urgency. Tower, this is Mountain West 447. We need immediate clearance or we're returning to the gate. Passengers are becoming agitated and we're burning excessive fuel. The ripple effects spread through Denver's air traffic system. Other flights face delays as 447 slot time passes. Ground crews scramble to reschedule connections. The financial cost of Bradley's discrimination multiplies by the minute, creating liability that will eventually destroy careers and reshape company policies. Bradley, oblivious to the chaos he's creating, continues his assault on Amara's dignity. You want to know what I think happened here? He announces to his audience. I think this woman found some real federal agent's briefcase and decided to use it for identity theft. Probably mugged some poor government worker and stole their life. The accusation is so outrageous that even supportive passengers begin questioning Bradley's judgment, but he's too deep into his performance to recognize their shifting mood. That's why she won't leave when asked, he continues. She knows once we run her fingerprints, the whole scam falls apart. Probably got warrants in multiple states. Amara's professional composure finally begins cracking. Watching this man destroy her reputation, contaminate federal evidence, and spread lies about her character pushes her toward a decision she'd hoped to avoid. Mr. Hutchinson, she says with dangerous calm, you're currently committing multiple federal crimes in front of dozens of witnesses. I strongly advise you to stop this behavior and call your supervisor immediately. Federal crimes? Bradley shrieks with laughter. You're the one committing crimes. Fraud, theft, impersonation, trespassing, and terrorist threats. That's life in prison, lady. He grabs her federal ID again, waving it like a trophy. This fake badge probably cost you $50 online. Did you really think it would fool airline security? We're trained to spot frauds like you. The irony reaches peak absurdity as Bradley holds genuine federal law enforcement credentials while accusing their owner of fraud. His prejudice creates a cognitive disconnect so profound that reality itself becomes invisible. Patricia Stone continues recording while providing commentary to her social media followers. Y'all seeing this? This gate agent is completely out of control. This professional woman hasn't done anything wrong, but he's treating her like a criminal because of her race. Her live stream gains viewers rapidly as the hashtag #HateC24 racism begins trending. Comments pour in from viewers demanding action, sharing similar experiences, and expressing outrage at Bradley's behavior. Janet Morrison's radio crackles with calls from airport management demanding updates on the security situation. The delay has caught attention from federal transportation authorities who monitor airline operations for safety and efficiency violations. Janet, what's your status? Her supervisor asks through static. We're getting calls from the Operations Center about Flight 447. The FAA wants to know why a scheduled departure is sitting at the gate burning fuel. We have a passenger dispute, Janet responds, still unsure how to characterize the situation. Gate agent reports possible fraud and impersonation. Meanwhile, Amara reaches her breaking point. Bradley's contamination of federal evidence, his public character assassination, and his systematic violation of her civil rights have created a situation requiring immediate federal intervention. Her phone buzzes with an incoming call from a restricted number. The caller ID shows only DOJ Civil Rights Division, her supervisor checking on her travel status. The timing couldn't be more perfect or more devastating for Bradley Hutchinson. I need to take this call, Amara announces, reaching for her phone. No phone calls, Bradley shouts, lunging to grab her device. Terrorists don't get to coordinate with their handlers on my watch. But the phone call that's about to destroy Bradley's world has already connected, and the voice on the other end will soon expose the greatest mistake of his discriminatory career. The 200-plus passengers on Flight 447 have no idea they're about to witness the most spectacular reversal of power in aviation history. In 60 seconds, a gate agent's racism will become a federal case study. In 3 minutes, an entire flight will be grounded by the consequences of one man's prejudice. Bradley Hutchinson is about to learn that the woman he's been humiliating carries the authority to end his career with a single sentence. The phone rings with sharp electronic tones that cut through the terminal noise like a blade. Amara glances at the caller ID, Deputy Chief Martinez, DOJ Civil Rights Division, and realizes this moment will either validate her months of investigation or become evidence in her own discrimination case. "Answer it on speaker," Bradley demands, still clutching her federal credentials like trophies. "I want everyone to hear your accomplice trying to coach you through this scam." Amara's finger hovers over the accept button. In 15 years of federal law enforcement, she's never been in a position where answering her supervisor's call would destroy someone's entire world. But Bradley's relentless humiliation has pushed this beyond personal offense into federal criminal territory. She taps the speaker button. "Detective Sergeant Washington, this is Deputy Chief Martinez." The authoritative voice booms across Gate C-24. "I'm calling to confirm your arrival time for tomorrow's DOJ ceremony. The Attorney General wants to review your civil rights presentation before the awards dinner." The effect is instantaneous and devastating. Bradley's face drains of color like someone pulled a plug. The mocking smile freezes on his lips as his brain struggles to process what he's hearing. Around him, passengers lean forward, sensing the shift in power dynamics. "Deputy Chief, I'm currently experiencing some travel difficulties." Amara responds with professional calm, though her eyes never leave Bradley's horrified expression. "A gate agent at Denver International has confiscated my federal credentials and is preventing my departure to Washington." "Excuse me?" Martinez's voice carries the sharp edge of federal authority. "Someone is interfering with a federal law enforcement officer's official travel. What's your location?" "Gate C-24, Mountain West Airlines Flight 447. Amara responds clearly. "The gate agent has accused me of impersonating law enforcement and is currently holding my DOJ identification." Bradley's hands begin trembling as he stares at the genuine federal credentials he's been waving around like props. The Department of Justice seal, the federal badge number, the official signatures, details his prejudice had rendered invisible, suddenly snap into focus with crystal clarity. "Detective Sergeant Washington, you have full federal authority to handle this situation," Martinez declares through the speaker. "Are you requiring federal backup for civil rights violations?" The words hit the gate area like an explosion. Passengers gasp audibly. Carlos Rivera's mouth falls open. Janet Morrison reaches for her radio with shaking hands. Patricia Stone's camera captures every second of Bradley's psychological collapse. "Sir, I believe federal intervention is necessary," Amara responds, her voice carrying new authority that makes everyone present understand the power shift has occurred. "I'm documenting multiple civil rights violations, destruction of federal property, and interference with federal law enforcement operations." Bradley tries to speak but only manages a strangled whisper. I didn't know. You can't be." "Mr. Hutchinson," Amara interrupts, finally using his name with the weight of federal authority behind it. "By the power vested in me by the United States Department of Justice, I am placing you under federal investigation for civil rights violations." She turns to address the growing crowd with calm professionalism. "Ladies and gentlemen, I am Detective Sergeant Amara Washington with the DOJ Civil Rights Task Force. For the past 8 months, I've been investigating discrimination complaints at this airport. Today's incident will be added to our federal case file." The revelation sends shockwaves through the assembled passengers. Phones emerge as people realize they're witnessing federal law enforcement in action. Social media posts explode with updates as the story takes on national significance. "Furthermore," Amara continues, her voice carrying across the terminal, "I am invoking federal emergency authority to shut down Gate C-24 pending criminal investigation. Flight 447 is hereby grounded until this matter is resolved." The announcement hits like a thunderbolt. 200 passengers who were expecting to reach Washington in 3 hours suddenly understand they're stranded by one man's racism. Captain Murphy's voice crackles over the gate intercom, demanding an explanation for the delay. Bradley finally finds his voice, but it emerges as a pathetic whimper. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean... I was just doing my job." "Your job doesn't include destroying federal documents, making false arrests, or discriminating against passengers based on race," Amara responds with surgical precision. "Every action you've taken in the past 30 minutes constitutes a federal crime." Janet Morrison steps forward, her face pale with understanding. "Detective Washington, I apologize for any misunderstanding. I had no idea." "Miss Morrison, you deferred to discrimination without question," Amara interrupts. "Your behavior will also be included in our federal report." Through the speakerphone, Deputy Chief Martinez's voice cuts through the chaos. "Detective Washington, I'm dispatching federal agents to your location. Expect backup within 15 minutes. Document everything." Bradley slumps against his desk as the magnitude of his situation becomes clear. 12 years of protected discrimination have just become evidence in a federal prosecution. His casual racism, his abuse of power, his systematic targeting of passengers based on race, all of it captured on multiple cameras and witnessed by hundreds of people. "The federal agents will process the crime scene and interview witnesses," Amara announces to the crowd. "Flight 447 passengers will be accommodated on alternative flights at airline expense. This delay is the direct result of Mr. Hutchinson's criminal behavior. The power reversal is complete. The man who spent 30 minutes humiliating a federal law enforcement officer now faces federal prosecution, career destruction, and public disgrace. The woman he tried to degrade stands revealed as someone with the authority to ground airplanes and shut down airport operations. But this is only the beginning of Bradley Hutchinson's consequences. The federal agents arrive like a thunderstorm, black SUVs screeching to the terminal curb, badges flashing, radios crackling with urgent communications. Special Agent Rebecca Carter leads the team through Gate C-24 with military precision, her presence transforming the area into an active crime scene. "Detective Washington, are you secure?" Agent Carter asks, her eyes scanning for threats while other agents begin cordoning off the gate area with yellow tape. "Secure and documenting federal crimes," Amara responds, gesturing toward Bradley, who stands frozen against his desk like a deer in headlights. "Mr. Hutchinson has spent the last hour committing civil rights violations in front of 200 witnesses." The sight of federal agents sends shockwaves through the terminal. Passengers gather at safe distances, phones recording as the full weight of federal law enforcement descends on Gate C-24. The holiday decorations and cheerful music create a surreal contrast to the unfolding arrest. Agent Carter approaches Bradley with handcuffs ready. "Bradley Hutchinson, you're under arrest for federal civil rights violations, obstruction of justice, and interference with federal law enforcement operations." "Wait, please!" Bradley's voice cracks like a teenager's. Sweat pours down his face as he realizes his 12-year career is ending in federal custody. "I made a mistake. I didn't know she was really a cop." "You have the right to remain silent," Agent Carter continues, unmoved by his pleas. The metallic click of handcuffs echoes through the gate area as Bradley's wrists are secured behind his back. "Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." The perp walk begins immediately. Federal agents escort Bradley through the terminal in handcuffs as hundreds of passengers watch and record. His rumpled uniform and tear-stained face create a pathetic image that will soon appear on news broadcasts nationwide. "I'm sorry," he shouts desperately to anyone who will listen. "I was just doing my job. I protect passengers. I didn't mean for this to happen." But his protests fall on deaf ears. Passengers who witnessed his hour-long assault on Amara's dignity show no sympathy for his downfall. Several applaud as he's led away. Others shout encouragement to the federal agents. "That's what racism gets you," Patricia Stone calls out, still recording. "Federal prison." Behind the scenes, Mountain West Airlines executives scramble into crisis mode. CEO Robert Kellerman receives the call while playing golf at his country club. One of their employees has just been arrested by federal agents for civil rights violations, and Flight 447 sits grounded with 200-plus furious passengers. "How bad is this?" Kellerman asks his legal counsel over speakerphone as he abandons his golf game. "Catastrophic," comes the reply. "Social media is exploding. The stock price is already dropping. and the DOJ says this is part of a larger investigation into systematic discrimination. Within minutes, Kellerman's helicopter lifts off from the country club, rushing him toward Denver International for emergency damage control. But the damage spreads faster than any executive can contain. On Flight 447, passengers demand immediate explanations from flight attendants who have no information to provide. Captain Murphy's announcements become increasingly frustrated as he explains the federal investigation delaying their departure. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing an unusual delay due to federal law enforcement activity at our gate," he announces over the intercom. "We'll provide updates as soon as possible." The cabin temperature rises as air conditioning systems struggle with the extended ground time. Children cry while parents check phones for alternative travel arrangements. Business executives miss important meetings. Families face ruined vacation plans. The economic ripple effects of Bradley's discrimination spread through hundreds of lives. Janet Morrison faces immediate suspension as airport security reviews her handling of the situation. Her 12-year career hangs in the balance as federal agents question her deference to Bradley's discrimination. "Why didn't you verify the federal credentials?" Agent Carter asks during her interview. I trusted Bradley's assessment," Janet stammers. "He said they were fake. Did you examine them yourself?" "No, I should have, but..." Her suspension becomes termination within hours as airport management realizes her complicity makes the situation legally indefensible. Carlos Rivera becomes the star witness, his testimony providing crucial evidence of Bradley's pattern of discrimination. "I tried to warn him," Carlos tells federal investigators. "I saw the federal documents. I knew something was wrong, but Bradley never listens to anyone." Meanwhile, Amara coordinates with federal agents while Mountain West executives arrive for emergency meetings. CEO Kellerman approaches her with visible desperation, flanked by lawyers and public relations specialists. "Detective Washington, we sincerely apologize for this incident," Kellerman begins. "Mr. Hutchinson's behavior does not represent our company values." "Mr. Kellerman, your company has protected Mr. Hutchinson despite 17 formal discrimination complaints," Amara responds with federal authority. "This incident represents exactly what your company values until now." The executive team realizes they're facing a federal civil rights investigation that could destroy their airline. Stock prices plummet as news broadcasts begin featuring Bradley's arrest footage. Social media explodes with #JusticeServed hashtags and calls for boycotts. Bradley Hutchinson's hour of power has become a lifetime of consequences. 6 months later, the federal courthouse in Denver becomes the stage for justice that will reshape an entire industry. The mahogany-paneled courtroom fills with reporters, civil rights advocates, and passengers from Flight 447 who traveled from across the country to witness Bradley Hutchinson's reckoning. U.S. District Judge Margaret Torres presides over the most comprehensive transportation discrimination case in decades. The evidence table groans under the weight of documentation. Videos from 37 passenger phones, airport security footage, federal investigation files, and testimonies from 247 witnesses. The defendant, Bradley Hutchinson, stands accused of 12 federal felony counts, Judge Torres announces, her voice carrying the weight of constitutional authority. Civil rights violations, conspiracy to deprive rights under color of law, obstruction of justice, and destruction of federal property. Bradley sits at the defendant's table, looking 20 years older than his booking photo. Federal prison has stripped away his arrogance, leaving behind a broken man who finally understands the magnitude of his crimes. His court-appointed attorney shuffles papers nervously, knowing the case is unwinnable. Federal prosecutor Lisa Carter presents evidence that exposes not just Bradley's individual racism, but Mountain West Airlines' systematic protection of discriminatory employees. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case represents more than one man's prejudice. It reveals institutional corruption that enabled federal crimes for over a decade. The prosecution's evidence is overwhelming. Bradley's employee file contains 17 formal discrimination complaints spanning 12 years, each one dismissed or ignored by management. Email chains show executives joking about problem passengers and praising Bradley for keeping undesirables off our flights. Former CEO Robert Kellerman takes the witness stand in handcuffs, facing his own federal charges for conspiracy and cover-up. His country club confidence has evaporated under federal prosecution pressure. Did you personally review discrimination complaints against Mr. Hutchinson? Prosecutor Carter asks. I may have seen some reports, Kellerman mumbles, avoiding eye contact with the jury. According to these emails, you called him our best gate agent for handling difficult passengers. What did you mean by difficult? Kellerman's silence speaks volumes. The jury sees through his evasions to the ugly truth underneath. Amara's testimony becomes the prosecution's centerpiece. She takes the stand in her federal dress uniform, medals gleaming under courtroom lights, projecting the authority Bradley refused to recognize. Detective Washington, please describe your qualifications for the jury, Prosecutor Carter requests. 15 years of federal law enforcement, specialized in civil rights violations. Graduate of the FBI National Academy. Currently leading the DOJ Transportation Discrimination Task Force. Her credentials fill several minutes, each achievement highlighting Bradley's willful blindness. What was your reaction when Mr. Hutchinson accused you of impersonating a federal officer? I documented it as evidence of systematic bias. He saw a black woman and immediately assumed criminality despite clear federal credentials identifying my authority. The defense attempts character assassination, suggesting Amara overreacted to standard security procedures. But video evidence destroys their arguments. Jurors watch Bradley's hour-long assault on her dignity with visible disgust. Patricia Stone's recording becomes Exhibit A, viewed on courtroom monitors as Bradley's voice echoes through speakers. Trash like you doesn't belong in first class. The audio captures his gleeful cruelty, his systematic dehumanization, his federal crimes committed with theatrical pride. Carlos Rivera's testimony reveals the culture of fear that protected Bradley's discrimination. Everyone knew he targeted black passengers, Latino families, anyone he considered suspicious, but management promoted him because he processed flights quickly. Did you ever report his behavior? Once. My supervisor told me to mind my own business if I wanted to keep my job. The 200-plus passengers from Flight 447 form a chorus of witnesses, each testimony adding weight to the prosecution's case. Business executives describe missed meetings costing hundreds of thousands in lost deals. Families detail ruined vacations and traumatized children. The economic damage spreads far beyond airline liability into human suffering. Dr. James Morrison, Patricia Stone's husband and a federal civil rights historian, provides expert testimony about transportation discrimination's historical context. Mr. Hutchinson's behavior represents the same systematic exclusion that federal law was designed to eliminate. His actions weren't individual prejudice. They were institutional terrorism designed to keep certain people from accessing public accommodations. The defense crumbles under prosecutorial pressure. Bradley's attorney attempts a mental health defense, claiming stress and overwork caused temporary insanity. But federal investigators present evidence of his calculated behavior, the systematic targeting, the practiced lies, the deliberate humiliation tactics refined over years of protected discrimination. Mountain West Airlines faces parallel prosecution for institutional conspiracy. The corporate trial reveals executive emails discussing passenger demographics and maintaining brand image. Code words for racial exclusion become evidence of federal conspiracy reaching the highest corporate levels. The company's $2.8 billion market valuation collapses as investors flee the discrimination scandal. Stock prices drop 67% as boycotts spread nationwide. Federal authorities freeze corporate assets pending criminal resolution. Judge Torres delivers sentencing with constitutional authority that echoes through legal history. Mr. Hutchinson, your crimes represent more than individual prejudice. You used the power of your position to systematically violate the civil rights of American citizens. You turned a place of public accommodation into a platform for racial terrorism. Bradley stands trembling as his fate is pronounced. I sentence you to 8 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised probation. You are permanently banned from employment in transportation industries and ordered to pay $3.2 million in restitution to your victims. The courtroom erupts in applause as justice is finally served. Bradley collapses into his chair, the reality of federal prison crushing his remaining spirit. 8 years of his life forfeit to pay for 30 minutes of discrimination. Mountain West Airlines accepts a federal plea agreement requiring $125 million in penalties, 5 years of DOJ oversight, and complete restructuring of hiring and training policies. The company that once protected Bradley's racism became a model for civil rights compliance under federal supervision. Kellerman receives his own federal sentence, 3 years prison for conspiracy and cover-up. His country club memberships are revoked, his corporate boards resign him in disgrace, his legacy forever tied to institutional racism. The ripple effects transform the entire aviation industry. Congress passes the Transportation Civil Rights Enhancement Act, establishing federal monitors at major airports and creating criminal penalties for systematic discrimination. Bradley's case became the foundation for the strongest civil rights legislation in 60 years. Amara receives the Presidential Medal of Freedom for her courage in confronting institutional discrimination. Her case study becomes a required curriculum in law enforcement academies nationwide, teaching officers how individual courage can dismantle systematic oppression. The 200-plus passengers from Flight 447 win a $47 million class action settlement, with funds distributed based on documented damages from Bradley's discrimination. Many donate portions to civil rights organizations, turning their trauma into advocacy for future victims. Federal prison awaits Bradley Hutchinson, where his racism will face a very different kind of justice system. His 8-year sentence begins immediately, with no possibility of early release for federal civil rights violations. 3 years later, Amara Washington stands before the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva, delivering a keynote address that has transformed her from federal investigator into global civil rights leader. The conference hall buzzes with translation headsets as delegates from 193 countries listen to her presentation on transportation discrimination and institutional accountability. The Bradley Hutchinson case proves that individual courage, combined with institutional accountability, can dismantle systematic oppression, she tells the assembly. Behind her, a PowerPoint slide shows the federal courthouse where justice was served. One man's racism shut down an airport. One woman's federal authority shut down his career forever. The statistics she presents are staggering. Transportation discrimination complaints have dropped 72% nationwide since federal oversight began. Every major airline now employs full-time civil rights officers with direct reporting lines to the Department of Justice. The Bradley Protocol, named after the case that started it all, requires immediate federal notification of any discrimination incident involving transportation employees. Amara now leads a 150-person federal task force covering all modes of transportation. Her Denver airport investigation expanded into a nationwide review that resulted in 847 discrimination charges, 312 convictions, and $2.3 billion in corporate penalties. The woman Bradley tried to humiliate has become the most feared civil rights enforcer in federal service. Meanwhile, Bradley Hutchinson serves year 3 of his 8-year sentence at Federal Correctional Institution Englewood, a minimum security prison 30 miles from the airport where his career ended. His daily routine includes janitorial work, anger management classes, and mandatory civil rights education. Ironic consequences for a man who once considered himself the gatekeeper of American aviation. Prison has taught Bradley lessons that 12 years of protected discrimination never could. His cellmate is a black federal judge convicted of financial crimes who treats him with the same dismissive contempt Bradley once showed passengers. The reversal of power dynamics provides daily reminders of justice's long arc. "Hutchinson, clean the toilets," his cellmate orders with casual authority. "And make sure they're spotless. I don't want to see any trace of your work." The humiliation burns, but Bradley has learned that resistance only extends his punishment. He scrubs toilets with the same hands that once tore up Amara's documents, experiencing dignity's removal from the victim's perspective for the first time in his life. His family has abandoned him entirely. His wife divorced him during the trial, taking their children and moving across the country to escape association with his name. His parents changed their phone number after receiving thousands of calls from people who recognized the Hutchinson name from news coverage. Employment prospects after release remain non-existent. The federal transportation ban means no airport, airline, train, or bus company can hire him. His criminal record includes federal civil rights violations, a scarlet letter that marks him unemployable in most industries. At 48, he faces starting over with nothing but the knowledge that his racism destroyed everything he once valued. The 200-plus passengers from Flight 447 have become an unexpected community of civil rights advocates. Their shared experience of witnessing systematic discrimination create lasting bonds that transcend racial and economic differences. They meet annually on the anniversary of Bradley's arrest, celebrating justice served and planning continued advocacy. Patricia Stone used her settlement money to establish the Flight 447 Foundation, providing legal assistance to transportation discrimination victims. Her recording of Bradley's abuse has been viewed over 50 million times, becoming a teaching tool in diversity training programs worldwide. Carlos Rivera was promoted to gate supervisor after his courageous testimony helped convict Bradley. He now trains new employees in anti-discrimination protocols, using his former colleague's case as a cautionary tale about the consequences of workplace racism. Mountain West Airlines emerged from federal oversight as an industry leader in civil rights compliance. The company that once protected Bradley's discrimination now provides consulting services to other airlines seeking to avoid similar federal prosecutions. Their stock price recovered only after complete management restructuring and $500 million in diversity program investments. The broader impact extends far beyond aviation. The Hutchinson case established legal precedents used in housing, employment, and education discrimination prosecutions. Federal courts cite Amara's courage and Bradley's consequences in hundreds of subsequent civil rights cases. But perhaps the most important legacy lies in changed behavior. Airport employees nationwide understand that discrimination carries federal criminal penalties, not just employment consequences. The viral nature of Bradley's downfall created deterrent effects that policy manuals could never achieve. Today, a gate agent who considers discriminating against a passenger remembers Bradley Hutchinson's perp walk through Denver International Airport. They remember his 8-year federal sentence. They remember that the quiet, professional passenger they're considering targeting might carry federal authority to destroy their entire life. Your role in this justice. Every time you witness discrimination, you hold the power to create change. Record it safely and legally. Report it to proper authorities. Share it to create accountability. Support victims who need allies. The next time you see someone being treated differently because of their race, remember, you might be watching the next Bradley Hutchinson destroy his own life, or you might be witnessing the next Amara Washington reveal her hidden authority. What will you do when discrimination happens in front of you? Will you record it, report it, and help justice prevail? Or will you stay silent and enable the next federal case study? The choice is yours. The power is in your hands. And the next viral justice story might start with your courage to act. Like this story? Share it. Subscribe for more justice-served content. And remember, karma doesn't just happen. Justice requires action.
At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the pain or water down the message. We tell it like it is, because the truth deserves nothing less. If today's story spoke to you, click like, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe so you'll be here for the next Uncut Voice.